I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome today. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Christine Burns. She is an expert leadership facilitator, and I'm super excited to tell you about her new community, Lady No Kids. And she's going to tell us all about that, her career journey, how she came to this place. So, Christine, give us a 90-second overview of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Donna. I'm so happy to be here. As Donna said, my name's Christine Burns. I am a leadership facilitator. So what does that mean? I spend time with leadership teams and boards, making sure that people are strategically aligned. And I help leaders when they're trying to form teams to help their teams come together and understand different ways of working. I started my career back in 2002 in New York City. I became a CPA, then a management consultant for Ernst & Young. I spent about 12 years there. Finished my MBA on the weekends at an executive program through Fordham University in international management, and then proceeded to spend the next 10 years of my career in HR and people and culture, which is what brings me to my love of facilitation and bringing teams together. What else have I done? So I was laid off in October of 2023, which gave me a great opportunity to assess where my life was, both from a personal and a professional standpoint. And it gave me the opportunity to start my own company. So my company is called Illume Talent. Illume is French for to light. I like to think that I light up a room, and I like to think that I light up talent. And my newest venture, as Donna mentioned, is Lady No Kids, which is bringing blueprints to women who are living a child-free lifestyle.
That is so fabulous at so many levels. Number one, you had a very full plate for many years doing hard work while also doing your MBA. So that's a handful. But
Thank
then
you.
that pivot when life gives us something that we don't really necessarily love, but gives you the opportunity to go, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
I'm real excited to learn more about that. So tell me when when you had that shift, when you had that downtime, and then you said, "Oh my gosh, here's something that I can create now."
Yeah.
What was going through your mind? What did you see as the need? And just tell us about what it is that you are creating.
Yeah, I think it's very, what people decide to do for work can be a very personal decision. I would argue that the first 20 years of my corporate career was not very personal at all. I grew up in a family where success looked like finishing high school, going to college, no option, and doing something that was either a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant. And that's the path I followed. I am so thankful for that path. At the same time, I think women get stuck climbing a corporate ladder, especially if you haven't been surrounded by entrepreneurialism in your life and you don't have that as a role model. It can feel like a huge obstacle, to get over and to come up with your own widget and to decide what you want to sell. I had a very hard time disconnecting my value and my personal worth to the paycheck that somebody else was willing to pay me. And so, that first couple of months after being laid off really was more about fixing my mental relationship with somebody else telling me I was doing a good job rather than me telling myself I was doing a good job. And so I started to really think about like what was the stuff that I loved, and what if I was going to work for free, what were the types of things that I would do. And if I did those things, would I feel like I was working? And really, that's when I started to think about leadership circles and facilitation as a real role, as something that, I could do. And so I did. I started doing it for free. I found organizations that needed um, to bring communities of people together and to run agendas and to be able to bring women into a room. And I loved it. And I absolutely loved it more and more. And I realized I was really good at it. So then the offering became, well, this is something a lot of companies need. This is a lot of things leaderships pay for. And then I started to realize that, if you've been in enough corporate rooms, a lot of offsites and a lot of retreats are run by leaders. Um, and no offense to leadership, but nobody wants you to facilitate. They want you to sit down and participate. So that's really what Illume Talent is about. It is about creating space for leaders to participate and not facilitate and leave the facilitation up to me. Um, and I absolutely adore it. I think it's something that leaders really help leaders be more effective in their role as leaders. If they just take away all of that pressure on themselves to, ask the hard questions and drive the agenda.
Oh, that so resonates with me. I think this is something we might have in common. We're doers. We're not just talkers. And if we're there and there's something that needs to be done, we just kind of make it happen. And
100%.
being in that place that you kind of feel like, well, I don't get to do the fun stuff, or I don't get to play, or I'm having to do it for somebody, not for ourselves. So
Right.
that really resonates with me. I love everything about that.
Cool.
So with your business, you're actually impacting, the whole corporate world, because you're creating a space for leaders to actually be participants in all of the good things that are happening. But tell us a little bit about your developing the new community that you're creating.
Right. So, as I've been flown into these corporations to help them seriously build their own community, right? Like forming a team is building a community. Sure, there's different structures involved, there's different ways of working, there's different rules that we play by, but in general, you're bringing a disparate group of people together towards a certain mission. And so when I realized how much I loved facilitation, I actually turned to my partner and I said, if I do this every day for the rest of my life, I'll never work another day. He said, well, that's great. Who do you want to do it for? I said, well, women. He said, cool. There's a lot of those. And I was like, yeah, I know. He said, you're going to run a yoga retreat? I'm like, clearly not. He's like, you're going to do a surf camp? I'm like, well, I don't know how to surf. And he's like, I think you got to figure out who your people are. And so, CHRO came to light. Those are my people. I've spent the last 10 years in HR. I absolutely love CHROs, but it still wasn't hitting. And so I took a really long look at me and myself and who am I? And I'm 41 years old. I have my feet firmly planted on the side of not having a child-free lifestyle and not having children of my own. Um, and then I started to think about the fact that a lot of me's are usually one in a group. Growing up, all of my best friends have gotten married and had children, and I have not done either of those things. And
Mhm.
it's always kind of made me feel like a bit of an outlier. But
Mhm.
in a community, there's always outliers, right? And so there had to be more of me's. So I started to do research around this segment of people. How big is it? How much money do we make? How much discretionary time do we have? And I started to realize that really we were a market and a category onto our own that no one's really looking at. They look at it in little spots, but as a whole, nobody's really built anything for us outside of community, but even financial wellness, mental wellness, health wellness, uh, career entrepreneurship. Nobody really looks at us. If you go out there and you really look at the groups that are out there, there's tons of groups of working moms, totally, and we need those. There are tons of groups of women entrepreneurs. Absolutely, we need those. Women in tech, 100%. Um, but there was nothing really as niche as, I have a more discretionary time and money than other women do. And so what do I need to think about that's different when I haven't gone with what society considers to be the normal path of a woman in North America with, a husband in a heteronormative relationship
Mhm.
with 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. And so I started to really explore what that would look like.
And hence, you're finding there is nothing. I got to create something.
So there's not nothing, but they are buried so far and so deep, and they don't really necessarily always resonate with my version of this. And so I am adamantly um, not anti mom. I am not anti children. I am not anti family. I'm not out there to say anything provocative that's trying to upset people who have chosen a normal path, or a more normalized path in the world. I'm not out here for this. There is a lot of that out there, to provoke and to cause discourse and to make people have followers. That's not important to me. What's important to me is that I find the right women, who are intelligent and powerful and smart, and that is a way to take those women who have expertise and amazing resources and a lens that is so familiar to the rest of these women, and bring those two things together. And if I'm able to do that, then I get to not only bring resources to a group of women that need it, but amplify women business owners who are also living a child-free lifestyle, and be able to help them grow their businesses and be, badasses. And if I can do that now, I'll really never work another day in my life. So yeah, that's what is out there is not enough, and it's not accessible enough. And so that's the hope of the platform.
And I think that as you're talking, Christine, the thing that I keep thinking is, okay, so now this means that I'm going to have a community, plugging myself into it. I
Yes,
see myself
I'm Donna.
having a part of being a part of a community, not feeling like an outsider, and having something to focus on other than just work. So that's my thing, is being childless. And we've got two, what do they call it, the dinks, dual income, no kids. Okay, so
Double
that's
income, no kids, the
right.
things.
I've
Yep.
always been identified as that. So now, and that's the thing, is I'm just working on building my business and making it as valuable as I can. So at some point I can sell it and retire. But now, if there is something else I can plug into, not that I don't have any interest, but it's easy just to get tied down into the work, because like you said earlier, that's just kind of how we're trained to, this is what we know and it's what we do. So if we don't have to take the kids to the ballpark and all the games and that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, how are we spending our time? Right?
Yeah. And, there's something important about the Dinks piece. I've met wonderful women entrepreneurs who actually focus on bringing communities of Dinks together. But there's something, and maybe I'm just being very pragmatic. Maybe I'm just a realist, and I'm sorry if this is a bit morbid in style. But you're born into the world alone, and you will die alone. And I happen to be in a heteronormative relationship, one in which I never planned on being married, and I will not be married. And the reality is, I'm a woman of 41 years old. My partner's 10 years older than me. Men generally die 10 years earlier than women do. So I'm looking down the barrel of 20 years of my life that's not going to include my partner. Then the other reality is people get divorced, people break up, people get sick, things happen, right? And so you know, the DINK community is great, but just like when women get divorced, they tend to lose their community in some way, because it is grounded in the basis that you are two people living together and doing things together. So, my dream is that this community isn't about bringing the dinks together, right? But is bringing women together who can support each other through menopause, right? And support each other through the hard times where we do lose our partners, and, can go to a concert when win last minute tickets because they don't have to worry about a babysitter. There's so many full, wonderful things that we have the opportunity to do if we do it with intention. And so the purpose is not only bring the community together, but bring intentionality to how we spend our time, how we spend our money, how we spend our energy in our relationships with women together who are in similar lifestyles as us.
Mm.
One of the things I'll never forget is, traveling first time with a group of women who didn't have children. I couldn't tell you how different that experience was than traveling with my friends who do. Whether the kids were along or not, my friends are in the thick of having anywhere from like 2 year olds to 12-year olds. And that is just
Mhm.
a different type of thing. And that's not what I've chosen for myself. So, the presence that women who don't have children can share with each other is very different as well.
I love everything about that, and your enthusiasm is contagious. So, and I appreciate that you have that, and that you're creating a community like this. So, I would love for you to share with me what is the biggest challenge that you faced thus far in your life, whether it's personal or professional, that's impacted the way that you're building both your professional business and this community.
What a great question, Donna. Getting laid off was definitely the most isolating thing that has ever happened to
Mm.
me. And the story I love to tell is, we were out at a doctor's appointment when I got the call, and my partner held my hand all the way back to the condo. We got upstairs. I went to go turn my computer on, and it was black, and I couldn't get into it because they had already shut my access aisle. And I was sitting across from the table of my partner, and I said, "Okay, so what are we gonna do?" Like, it was a Friday, and I was like, "Well, what do we do with the rest of our day?" He was like, "I have to go back to work," and I was like, "Well, wait, what? What about me?" What? And he was like, "You need to go figure this out." And what I ended up doing was, I have a very good friend who's a brilliant female pilot, and she's from Barbados and she lives in Barbados. And she said, "Why don't you come down for 2 weeks and just, hang out by the beach? That's my world, the water and that kind of thing." And I sat there and I didn't miss a beat. I just started being like, "Okay, if I'm going to do it on my own, here's my deadlines. Here's the day I have to make a dollar by. Here's all the stuff I want to do." Um, but what I wasn't doing was taking a minute to just look around and be like, wow, like, look how lucky I am that, this has happened to me. I felt sad. I felt grief. I felt shame. I felt all these things, but I wasn't looking at the other pieces of it, which was I was sitting on a beach for 2 weeks for free in Barbados, and I had enough money in the bank to make sure that the next 6 months would be fine, and I didn't have to cancel my 40th birthday safari. So the person who was able to show me that was this woman, right? Like, the just to have her and to have a community that didn't focus on the negative things, but those positive things. And so a lot of what I've shared with you about Lady No Kids has shaped that, because I know what it was like to not have that net there, or to not be aware that I had the net there. And so I want this to be in people's faces, that this is a group of women who will have each other's backs, um, and that was what got me through everything. And so the other thing is, I think there's a ton of dope women sitting in corporate jobs that shouldn't be, and I wish somebody had turned to me sooner and been like, "Come, like, it's not that hard to become. I mean, it's extremely hard to be an entrepreneur." But the things that scare you into not doing it is not as scary as it seems. Um, that it's interesting, there's two different populations of women. You've got women whose feet are firmly planted on the side of, "I'm not having children," and that was either a decision or a choice or circumstance or a chance, whatever, you ended up here, great. There's a whole group of women who are in their 20s and 30s who are struggling with making this decision, and some of them feel like they don't want to have children, but they're being told that your life is empty, or you will not know love unless you know the love of a child, or if you're a woman and you have this ability to create life, why wouldn't you want to do that? And so there's an important part of this community too that is not helping people make a decision to do it or not. That is not the point, but to show that my life is extremely full and extremely fun, and I know love in so many different ways. And I've birthed and created all sorts of things without it being a literal child. And so it's not a lonely and dark and boring existence if you choose to come this way.
I love that. And again, everything that you're talking about resonates with me. And I don't know if I shared this with you before, but my thing is I was struggling with whether or not we were going to have children when I did get married. It was kind of like, ooh, well, we're too newly married. I'm not ready yet. And then it was like an age thing for me because I, have a autoimmune illness that would make it difficult if I waited too long. So for us, it was kind of the bottom line came down to me, Christine, in that I was making a decision on having a child because I wanted my mama to be a grandmother and I didn't want her
Yeah,
to be disappointed. And when
absolutely.
I finally acknowledged that that's why I was hesitating on making the decision, the burden was lifted off my shoulder. I was like, okay, I can't, that can't be my reason for birthing a child. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What I personally struggled with always has been who's going to take care of me. And I'll never forget one of my greatest friends. She has a child, and she was like, I'm sorry, do you think this is a guarantee that he's going to hang out and take care of me when I'm old? And I guess because my parents did it for their parents, and I will do it for my parents. That my assumption always in my head was if I don't do this, I won't have somebody to take care of me. And so what that means now is I have to work backwards financially and lifestyle wise to be like, well, when will I need care and what will that look like? Which has really changed my relationship with my body, with my physical strength. I realized, this is not, I'm not saying everybody shouldn't do this, but for me, it was the wake up call of, you know what, I'm only going to be as healthy as I treat myself now. And
Right.
so if I'm not going to take care of that, well, then I better have a damn lot more money because I'm going to not be as mobile or not be as independent. And I have fought my whole life for independence, fiscal independence, personal independence. So why would I give that up now, by treating my body like crap? Um, I still enjoy myself. I still have a great time, but it is always in my forethought that I'm building what my 70s and my 80s and potentially my 90s are going to look like. My
Mhm.
grandmother died at 100 years old, and she still was like almost driving a car. So I got a long road ahead of me.
Yes, yes, you do. And the foresight, I think everything you're talking about, number one, the taking care of your body so that it does serve you well much longer. And then just knowing that, hey, we might need to be doing some long-term care planning or something, just the
Absolutely.
whatever. So, and even people with kids, what I'm finding now, as a financial professional is that most mamas don't want their kids to have to be responsible for them at some point. So, if but then again, a lot of people just don't do the planning. So it's a catch 22. You got to take
It is.
action.
It is. Like my own parents, right? They totally would never want to be a burden on me. The reality is there's not enough money without my help to make their lives comfortable at the end of the life, right? So yeah, you can buy all the life insurance, you can do all the right things, but it doesn't work out for everybody, right? And
Right.
so, but I am, hell bent on making sure that my level of care is as personal and as individualized as I want to live my life. Does that mean that I turn into the Golden Girls when I'm 70, 80 years old? I mean, that show wasn't on as a joke, right? There was a
Mhm.
reason that was there. And the reality is, women depend on community so much more than males do.
Mhm.
We thrive in it, we cherish it, we grow it. And so, why would that stop? That's only going to be amplified the older we get. And if I've created that community now, my chances of having more people surrounding me when I'm older to be part of that community is only higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that my partner and I last forever and that he lives, longer than I do. But we got to do a reality check here and be prepared for what happens if not. And then my next question is, okay, I die with all this money and all this stuff. Where does that go? Right?
Right.
Because I don't have generational wealth. And so I spoke to an amazing woman the other day who, was teaching me about donating things and leaving things to places that were important to me, and had I thought about that and what that could look like. And just even being able to make contributions now, charitable contributions with the discretionary money I have. No, I've never thought like that, but I should.
Right. Well, and we don't know what we don't know, right? So just knowing that there's opportunities to do that. So
Yeah.
I love everything about it. Okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to shift gears on you for just a second. Tell me, if you could have lunch with any person, living or deceased, who would that be and why?
Huh. Wasn't ready for that. You know, this got, have you ever heard the New York Times article 36 questions to fall in love?
No, I have not.
Okay, so they just rehashed it on their podcast, but it turned 10 years old. It's actually how me and my partner ended up falling in love as we did this exercise. And this is the first question they asked. You could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive. Who would it be? Um, and I always answered Oprah or Michelle Obama,
Yeah.
always.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what Michelle Obama and Oprah represent when it comes to community is very interesting and important, I think. Um, they represent an underserved community, and then women on top of it in an underserved community. And they're smart, they're brilliant, they're tenacious, and they lead, with a way that people follow. And I want to be that for a Lady No Kids. I keep making a joke. I'm looking for a social media manager, and they keep being like, "Well, where's your reels on TikTok?" And I'm like, "Oh God, no, no!" And they're like, "You got to do it. You just got to do it." And I was like, "I don't want to do it." And they're like, "You got to do it because if you want to be Oprah or you want to be Michelle Obama, you got to do it." Damn it! But that's how you lead, right? And um, I would ask them, how they got over that piece of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I didn't grow up, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to do, collabs. I just want to find the right women and bring them into a room and make something really special happen. But in order to do that, you have to be a leader.
You have to be visible and you have to be out for people to find you. And yeah, you got this, girl. I mean, we literally could do reels from just this video
I
today.
know. I
Right.
know.
So you're doing it right this minute. So get over yourself with that. No, I'm here to support you through that. So
Thanks,
awesome.
Donna.
Absolutely. All right. So I'd love for you to share with our audience how they can reach out to you, both your professional business and the group that you're creating. Share with us
Yes.
how to find you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on my Substack. If you're not part of Substack, please go there. I mean, people just writing wonderful, wonderful things. That is my community for now. That is how I'm collecting emails. That is how I'm connecting women together. And if you get on there, then you'll be invited to a Slack channel in which we are going to start running our first events in June. They are at no cost. They are here to just bring the community together. And my LinkedIn is Christine Burns. That's where you can book a chat with me to find out about Lady No Kids or to find out about Loom Talent and my facilitation services. I'm also a professional coach on the side, which I love to do. I don't do it full time because I find it to be mentally and physically exhausting. But yeah, I do love doing that piece of work as well. But the offer is out there. If anyone needs a thought partner, I don't have all the answers to anything. I don't think anybody really does unless they're like, an astrophysicist and you want to know about that. But I am a great thought partner. So if anybody's looking for time, I have 30 minutes for anybody who wants it.
That's a generous offer, and I advise everybody to take advantage of it because she's a smart chick. So awesome. It was great to have you today. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thanks for having me, Donna. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.